I would like to invite Vice Mayor Jae-hyun Han to the stage again. Through the Seoul Biennale, I believe that ambassadors from all around the world who brought close cooperation with the Seoul metropolitan government have signed MOUs to promote cultural exchange in the city-to-city architectural field. Last year, a total of 6 countries signed the MOUs, and this year, Denmark has joined us, and today we are exchanging the MOUs. And please welcome to the stage Danish Ambassador to Korea. Denmark and Seoul, with their representatives each holding the signed MOUs in their hands, are committed to working hard on the exchange of architectural culture between the cities. Now they are exchanging each other's MOUs. Please give them a big round of applause. On the screen now, the national flags of Denmark and the Republic of Korea are hung side by side. We pledge to make exchanges on equal terms for the development of each other's architectural culture. Then now, we will introduce you to the ambassadors of each country who have supported and cooperated for Seoul's urban architectural development. First of all, International Relations Ambassador Jia Park, a great contributor to raising the international status of Seoul. Please come up to the stage and welcome with us the ambassadors from each country. Now, if you look at the map of Seoul on this screen, the national flag of Denmark has been added. Now, Honorable Federico Faina, Italian Ambassador to Korea, Swiss Ambassador to ROK, Dagmar Schmidt-Tartali, UK Ambassador Colin Crooks, Deputy Chief Mission of Australian Ambassador to Korea, Alexander Sito, and Brazilian Ambassador, Deputy Chief Mission to Korea, Mariam Leita, and from Norway Embassy Anne Reunion, French Cultural Center Director, Ludovic Gil, Italian Cultural Center Director, Michela Linda Magri. Now, the city of Seoul is filled with national flags of the countries. That have promised to exchange for the architectural culture development of each other's cities. The commitment and dedication to making each individual cities each other's cities is now gathered in one place. Now let us have a group photo opportunity. Yes, and Portuguese ambassador to Korea is also here with us at present. Please smile. And I believe that the promise that we make today will play a very important role in developing sustainable architectural culture in the cities around the world. Thank you, everyone. Now, please return to your seats.
네, 벌써 네 번째로 열리는 2022
So the 2023 SBAU, which is being held for the 4th time, as was mentioned before, has held a contest under the theme of urban land, urban architecture, city of mountain ranges, waterways, and wind breezes, drawing of Seoul's next 100 years. The work that were submitted for the contest will be showcased in next year's Seoul Biennale of Architecture and Urbanism. Over 124 teams from 21 nations took part in the contest, and the judges selected 40 finalist teams. The 40 teams that made the final cut and the invited artists and all of the artists taking part in the Biennale will be glad to hear that the work of those who presented the most creative and fresh ideas for tackling urban challenges will be awarded the Biennale Award in next year's Biennale. Let's take a look at the video for further information.
행사의 제목 자체가 서울 도시건축 비엔날레라는 행사거든요. 그래서 저희가 집중하게 된 단어가 도시의 건축이라는 부분이었어요. 이제 그 중에서도 이제 건축인데, 건축의 소재로 쓰여지는 또 건축의 메타포로 쓰여질 수 있는 요소들을 굉장히 많이 스터디를 하게 됐고, 그 중에 하나가 이제 벽돌이라는 소재였습니다. 근데 벽돌은 원래 전통적으로 아주 오랜 시간 전부터 건축의 기본적인 소재로 쓰여진 건축 재료거든요. 근데 이제 벽돌이 갖고 있는 의미 중에 굉장히 좋은 내용은 켜켜이 쌓아 올리면서 하나를 완성해 나간다라는 의미를 갖고 있었습니다. 그래서 그 부분에 저희는 아주 집중을 하게 됐었고, 서울 도시건축 비엔날레의 상징으로서 잘 어울릴 수 있다라는 생각을 했습니다. 그래서 디자인의 가장 기본이 되는 모티브가 이제 브릭, 벽돌이라고 보시면 됩니다. 벽돌이 갖고 있는 의미 중에 또 하나는 굉장히 오랫동안 사람들에게 사랑받은 건축 소재라는 점, 그리고 굉장히 오랜 시간 동안 있어도 변치 않는 그런 부분도 의미가 있다라고 생각을 했어요. 그래서 이번 트로피를 디자인할 때에도 저희가 디자인한 이 트로피가 오랜 시간 동안 쓰여지길 바랬습니다. 그래서 그런 부분이 벽돌과 또 저희 디자인과의 어떤 시너지가 나지 않았나, 그렇게 생각을 하고 있습니다. 무엇보다도 공공 프로젝트에 참여를 해서 좋은 결과를 냈다라는 게 의미가 굉장히 큰 것 같고요. 또 하나는 오랜 시간 동안 지속적으로 이어질 수 있는 행사를 상징하는 트로피 디자인을 저희 팀이 해놨다라는 것 자체가 상당히 고무적이고 영광이라고 생각을 하고 있습니다. 그리고 또 무엇보다도 저희가 이 프로젝트를 이끌기는 했지만 이 프로젝트가 최우수 작품으로 선정되기까지 평가위원님들이나 또 최종 결과물이 나오기까지 많은 의견을 주시고 도움을 주셨던 자문위원님들께도 굉장히 큰 감사를 드립니다.
So, the fact that the Biennale is being held itself is quite significant. And the architects who take part in the competition seems that the participation itself is meaningful. But if they win a prize, that would make their experience more significant. And you just saw the trophy for the Biennale Award. Mr. Jung Deok-ki, who designed the trophy, is here. And he will be delivering the trophy to Deputy Mayor Han Jae-hyun. So why don't we have them up on stage? Once again, I would like to ask the Deputy Mayor to come up on stage along with designer Jung Deok-ki. He is the CEO of the studio Adaption, which specializes in industrial design and has won numerous authoritative design awards and has been introducing new concept products through collaboration with startups and seasoned businesses as well. So he will present the Biennale trophy to our Deputy Minister. Thank you so much. So this would be the Biennale trophy that will be presented to the talented artists that take part in the Biennale competition. Thank you so much. So that will be a very meaningful trophy given to the talented architects who take part in the meaningful event, the 2023 SBAU. And this will be a trophy that will be given to those who have presented great ideas for the future of Seoul. And the deputy mayor will tell us about the significance of this award. The I am Second Deputy Mayor Han Jae-yeon of Seoul Metropolitan Government. From the 4th Seoul Biennale of Architecture and Urbanism in 2023, we plan to award the Seoul Biennale of Architecture and Urbanism Award to the participating artists who have contributed innovative ideas to the field of urban architecture. Designer Jung Dok-hee, who was selected through a nomination contest, designed the trophy with great enthusiasm. And with this award, we will be able to enhance the international status of the Seoul Biennale and promote our Biennale to the public so that it may receive greater attention and support from the public. Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. So, I am curious who will be the first to receive this trophy, and we will find out next year. Next, Chairperson Kim Hyung-gi of the Seoul Metropolitan Council is up on stage for the next order of events. Thank you so much. So for the 2023 SBAU, many people have contributed, and we will acknowledge them at this moment. These two gentlemen will be welcoming the curators who play a big role in the Biennale. First of all, General Director Jo Byung-soo, please come up on stage. And also, we have 4 curators for the different exhibitions. Please, everyone, come up on stage. Chun Eui-young, Im Jin-young, Yeom Sang-hoon, Kim Sara. Please come up on stage. We have 4 curators joining us. Thank you. Actually, we do have another curator, and he is Professor Leif Hoypelt Hansen of the Department of Architecture at the University of Aarhus of Denmark, and he will be joining us through video. So we will now be hosting a roundtable discussion for the 6 people who will present the blueprint for the SBAU 2023. But before that, let's take a commemorative photo. So please smile for the camera. This will be a meaningful photo, so please smile for the camera. Yes, thank you very much. So we are taking a memorable photo, so why don't we invite also Operation Director Kang Byung-gun and also Chairperson Min of the Housing Committee. Please come up on stage as well. Yes, thank you very much. Yes, thank you, everyone. Please return to your seats. Thank you. So, some housekeeping notes, ladies and gentlemen. The Chairperson Kim Hyung-gi of the Seoul Metropolitan Council and Deputy Mayor Han Jae-yeon, because of their tasks within the Seoul Metropolitan Government, they will have to exit at this moment. But thank you very much for joining us despite your busy schedules. So now, it is time to invite the 6 curators who have laid this foundation for the SBAU to share the nitty-gritty important information about the Biennale that will be held next year.
우리가 살아가는 그리고 살아갈 도시의 미래를 모색하는 행사를 소개합니다. 바로 서울 도시건축 비엔날레인데요. 도시 건축을 주제로 2년에 한 번씩 개최되는 국제전시 행사입니다. 2023년 9월에 땅의 도시, 땅의 건축을 주제로 서울 종로구 송현동에서 비엔날레가 열린다고 하네요. 특히 이번 행사는 그 의미가 좀 남다르다고 합니다. 이전 서울 도시건축 비엔날레에서는 공유도시, 집합도시, 크로스로드 등 도시를 둘러싼 다양한 사회적 이슈를 다뤘다면 내년에는 땅을 토대로 100년 후 도시 마스터 플랜을 본격적으로 그려보는 자리를 마련할 예정이라고 합니다. 단순한 미관이나 기능을 위한 건축이 아닌 환경과 생태를 먼저 생각하고 더 넓게는 문화와 역사를 포괄하는 땅의 건축을 통해 함께 도시의 미래를 그려보는 것이죠.
Now, I would like to invite Vice Mayor Jae Hyun Han to the stage again. Through the Seoul Biennale, I believe that ambassadors from all around the world who brought close cooperation with the Seoul metropolitan government have signed MOUs to promote cultural exchange in the city-to-city architectural field. Last year, a total of 6 countries signed the MOUs, and this year, Denmark has joined us, and today we are exchanging the MOUs. And please welcome to the stage Danish Ambassador to Korea. Denmark and Seoul, with their representatives each holding the signed MOUs in their hands, are committed to working hard on the exchange of architectural culture between the cities. Now they are exchanging each other's MOUs. Please give them a big round of applause. On the screen now, the national flags of Denmark and the Republic of Korea are hung side by side. We pledge to make exchanges on equal terms for the development of each other's architectural culture. Then now, we will introduce you to the ambassadors of each country who have supported and cooperated for Seoul's urban architectural development. First of all, International Relations Ambassador Jia Pak, a great contributor to raising the international status of Seoul. Please come up to the stage and welcome with us the ambassadors from each country. Now, if you look at the map of Seoul on this screen, the national flag of Denmark has been added. Now, Honorable Federico Faina, Italian Ambassador to Korea, Swiss Ambassador to ROK, Dagmar Schmidt-Tartali, UK Ambassador Colin Crooks, Deputy Chief Mission of Australian Ambassador to Korea, Alexander Sito, and Brazilian Ambassador, Deputy Chief Mission to Korea, Mariam Leita, and from Norway Embassy Anne Reunion, French Cultural Center Director Ludovic Gil, Italian Cultural Center Director Michela Linda Magri. Now the city of Seoul is filled with national flags of the countries. That have promised to exchange for the architectural culture development of each other's cities. The commitment and dedication to making each individual cities each other's cities is now gathered in one place. Now let us have a group photo opportunity. Yes, and Portuguese ambassador to Korea is also here with us at present. Please smile. And I believe that the promise that we make today will play a very important role in developing sustainable architectural culture in the cities around the world. Thank you, everyone. Now, please return to your seats.
네, 벌써 네 번째로 열리는 2020
So the 2023 SBAU, which is being held for the 4th time, as was mentioned before, has held a contest under the theme of urban land, urban architecture, city of mountain ranges, waterways, and wind breezes, drawing of Seoul's next 100 years. The work that were submitted for the contest will be showcased in next year's Seoul Biennale of Architecture and Urbanism. Over 124 teams from 21 nations took part in the contest, and the judges selected 40 finalist teams. The 40 teams that made the final cut and the invited artists and all of the artists taking part in the Biennale will be glad to hear that the work of those who presented the most creative and fresh ideas for tackling urban challenges will be awarded the Biennale Award in next year's Biennale. Let's take a look at the video for further information.
행사의 제목 자체가 서울 도시건축 비엔날레라는 행사거든요. 그래서 저희가 집중하게 된 단어가 도시의 건축이라는 부분이었어요. 이제 그 중에서도 이제 건축인데, 건축의 소재로 쓰여지는 또 건축의 메타포로 쓰여질 수 있는 요소들을 굉장히 많이 스터디를 하게 됐고, 그 중에 하나가 이제 벽돌이라는 소재였습니다. 근데 벽돌은 원래 전통적으로 아주 오랜 시간 전부터 건축의 기본적인 소재로 쓰여진 건축 재료거든요. 근데 이제 벽돌이 갖고 있는 의미 중에 굉장히 좋은 내용은 켜켜이 쌓아 올리면서 하나를 완성해 나간다라는 의미를 갖고 있었습니다. 그래서 그 부분에 저희는 아주 집중을 하게 됐었고, 서울 도시건축 비엔날레의 상징으로서 잘 어울릴 수 있다라는 생각을 했습니다. 그래서 디자인의 가장 기본이 되는 모티브가 이제 브릭 벽돌이라고 보시면 됩니다. 벽돌이 갖고 있는 의미 중에 또 하나는 굉장히 오랫동안 사람들에게 사랑받은 건축 소재라는 점, 그리고 굉장히 오랜 시간 동안 있어도 변치 않는 그런 부분도 의미가 있다라고 생각을 했어요. 그래서 이번 트로피를 디자인할 때에도 저희가 디자인한 이 트로피가 오랜 시간 동안 쓰여지길 바랬습니다. 그래서 그런 부분이 벽돌과 또 저희 디자인과의 어떤 시너지가 나지 않았나, 그렇게 생각을 하고 있습니다. 무엇보다도 공공 프로젝트에 참여를 해서 좋은 결과를 냈다라는 게 의미가 굉장히 큰 것 같고요. 또 하나는 오랜 시간 동안 지속적으로 이어질 수 있는 행사를 상징하는 트로피 디자인을 저희 팀이 해놨다라는 것 자체가 상당히 고무적이고 영광이라고 생각을 하고 있습니다. 그리고 또 무엇보다도 저희가 이 프로젝트를 이끌기는 했지만 이 프로젝트가 최우수 작품으로 선정되기까지 평가위원님들이나 또 최종 결과물이 나오기까지 많은 의견을 주시고 도움을 주셨던 자문위원님들께도 굉장히 큰 감사를 드립니다.
사실 이런
So, the fact that the Biennale is being held itself is quite significant. And the architects who take part in the competition seems that the participation itself is meaningful. But if they win a prize, that would make their experience more significant. And you just saw the trophy for the Biennale Award. Mr. Jung Deok-ki, who designed the trophy, is here. And he will be delivering the trophy to Deputy Mayor Han Jae-hyun. So why don't we have them up on stage? Once again, I would like to ask the Deputy Mayor to come up on stage along with designer Jung Deok-ki. He is the CEO of the studio Adaption, which specializes in industrial design and has won numerous authoritative design awards and has been introducing new concept products through collaboration with startups and seasoned businesses as well. So he will present the Biennale trophy to our Deputy Minister. Thank you so much. So this would be the Biennale trophy that will be presented to the talented artists that take part in the Biennale competition. Thank you so much. That will be a very meaningful trophy given to the talented architects who take part in the meaningful event, the 2023 SBAU. And this will be a trophy that will be given to those who have presented great ideas for the future of Seoul. And the deputy mayor will tell us about the significance of this award. I am Second Deputy Mayor Han Jae-yeon of Seoul Metropolitan Government. From the 4th Seoul Biennale of Architecture and Urbanism in 2023, we plan to award the Seoul Biennale of Architecture and Urbanism Award to the participating artists who have contributed innovative ideas to the field of urban architecture. Designer Chung Dok-hee, who was selected through a nomination contest, designed the trophy with great enthusiasm. And with this award, we will be able to enhance the international status of the Seoul Biennale and promote our Biennale to the public so that it may receive greater attention and support from the public. Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. So, I am curious who will be the first to receive this trophy, and we will find out next year. Next, Chairperson Kim Hyung-gi of the Seoul Metropolitan Council is up on stage for the next order of events. Thank you so much. So for the 2023 SBAU, many people have contributed, and we will acknowledge them at this moment. These two gentlemen will be welcoming the curators who play a big role in the Biennale. First of all, General Director Jo Byung-soo, please come up on stage. And also, we have 4 curators for the different exhibitions. Please, everyone, come up on stage. Chun Eui-young, Im Jin-young, Yeom Sang-hoon, Kim Sara. Please come up on stage. We have 4 curators joining us. Thank you. Actually, we do have another curator, and he is Professor Leif Hoypelt Hansen of the Department of Architecture at the University of Aarhus of Denmark, and he will be joining us through video. So we will now be hosting a roundtable discussion for the 6 people who will present the blueprint for the SBAU 2023. But before that, let's take a commemorative photo. So please smile for the camera. This will be a meaningful photo, so please smile for the camera. Yes, thank you very much. So we are taking a memorable photo, so why don't we invite also Operation Director Kang Byung-gun and also Chairperson Min of the Housing Committee. Please come up on stage as well. Yes, thank you very much. Yes, thank you, everyone. Please return to your seats.
Yes, 2023 Seoul Biennale is somewhat different because before we put it together on DDP and so on, now this time we would like to start out from Songhyun Green Plaza, and it is linked toward a lot of land around the city. And this is the site. For over 100 years, it was occupied by the Japan during the colonial rule, and then it was used by the U.S. Embassy, and then now it is coming back to the heart of Seoul Lights. And here, this is the very venue. Here we are gathered together here, and we would like to use this venue as an exhibition hall as well. And this is the photo of Songhyandong area. I'm sure that you have been here, and on this very land. Well, in 1390, where this very site was used as the city center of Hanyang, and at that time they had Feng Shui spirit in mind, and they were able to build some architecture here. And I believe that this was the very first form of the city architecture in Seoul. And you can see Bukak Mountain, and there is a Chu Mountain. And Chu Mountain is more or less like a father's mountain, and there is this son's mountain. And in order to protect us from all those external aggressors and strong wind coming from Russia, as you can see here, we have those mountain ranges surrounded in Seoul. And in the southern part of Seoul, it is pretty much open and area, and there are a lot of nice wind breezes that Seoul people can enjoy. And during this Biennale, we are going to have two different structures, and well, I believe that our curators will be able to give you some introductory remarks related to that. Here, this is what it looks like on the land. As you can see here, underneath the landmark, we can feel that it's very cozy, and with this, you can feel the warmth of the land. And this is the profile of the land. As you can see here, it's a little hilly, and it is well utilized to provide structures here. And here we can organize a lot of events like music concert, and talks, and some forums as well. It's like a 16-meter deep scaffolding taking place. And here for this Biennale, we say that we would like to have zero waste event, creating no waste whatsoever. And as you know, this is the land architecture, and we would like to utilize recyclable products and materials as much as possible, and the scaffolding can be also dismantled very easily. And citizens of Seoul can go up there on 16 high space, and then they can see what it look like looking at the Seoul areas from bird's eye view. So it is in the master plan exhibition, and we can explore what is the best way for us to develop our Seoul city better in the future. And this is what it shows is Joseon dynasties, like mid of Joseon dynasties map. Unlike other countries, you can see how much our ancestors value mountain ranges, waterways, and wind breezes. And you can also see what is the direction of urban architecture of Seoul. And as you can see, this is more or less the layout of the land and city. Now, we have a lot of highways and freeways, especially over the past 100 years. There have been a lot of road constructions coming to existence. So that is why right now we can't find this type of layout in any part of Seoul. So we are forgetting a lot of good harmony between mountains, waterways, and wind breezes. But I believe that if you look at the cities around the world, this is more or less a shared common issue that we need to tackle. So we would like to see what are those good best practices from around the world and incorporate them into our city development. Here you see there is Han River in the middle of the landmass, and if you look at those green areas, these represent mountains. In fact, two-thirds of Seoul landmass is composed of mountains and mountain ranges. And so if you look at Seoul, it is such a beautiful city. And over the years, we architects have not been fully utilizing the beauty of the land. However, we have Seoul, which indeed has great potential to grow, especially the land architecture. And we have a lot of mountains, we have Han River, and a lot of waterways are actually buried under the land. However, I believe that our goal is to restore those beautiful parts of Seoul for our land architecture. Well, if I sum up what we are going to do, well, of course, even now we have a lot of scrappers, and the city is well packed and built with a lot of architectural buildings. But then here we have Olympic Daero, and which lasts 40 kilometers, and Gangnam-Buklo Road, and that is 30 kilometers. And we would like to embed them under the land area so that that becomes like an underground roads. It's not like a tunnel, like closed tunnel, but we would like to make it as underground open roads. And by doing so, of course, Seoul is such a dense city, and while maintaining that, how can we make more green city, more safe city? And sometimes ambulances or firefighting trucks cannot access some of those roads, and that needs to be well addressed. And how can we make the city more safe? That provides more public goods. So we would like to link all those rivers and mountain ranges, and in doing so, we would like to include and connect all those green corridors. And I believe that Professor Chan is going to touch upon that more in details later. And we would like to bring to life all those nice topographies of Seoul, and we would like to maintain those firefighting protected roads and things like that to make the city more safe. Now, well, if you think about land architecture and land urbanism, I believe that there are a lot of ways of exploring it from all different perspectives. And the land, the importance of the land is very much valued in Korea. And 25 years ago, when I returned to Korea after long years of study abroad, I have learned a great deal from a lot of veteran architects, and we indeed have a lot of senior architects. Mr. Kang Byung-gun, our operation director, is one of them, and we have a lot of colleague and peer architects, and I believe that they truly understand what I'm trying to say here. And here, our senior architects with Biennale 1, 2, 3, they have put together great stuff here. And here in this fourth Biennale, we would like to materialize what we have discussed more. So it is not about just showing in a brief manner what we are trying to do. We would like to give more concrete concepts to that. I believe that the ecosystem of the city is very important. How can we minimize the carbon footprint? And that is one of the areas that we need to look into. And as you can see, Seoul topography is pretty much organic and very beautiful. But now we have a lot of dense apartment complex. And what is the best way to bring to life those nice, beautiful topography of Seoul? And at the same time, how can we make and survive all those dense areas of city? And these two are the areas we would like to look into, and we would like to try to create the unique Seoul city with its unique topography. We have 5 different sections for the exhibitions, and here I would like to touch upon thematic exhibitions very briefly.
So I explained about the overall theme, but now let's take a look at the exhibitions. So for the thematic exhibition, well, rather than trying to focus on many different formats, we wanted to really take a deep dive through our discussions and really have an in-depth look at our urban area. And so for that, we want to take a look at the history of Seoul, how the city of Seoul was formated over the years, how it has changed, and how it is at present. We will also be looking into the cases of overseas cities. 12 architects from overseas will also, under this theme, engage in discussions. There will be interviews that will be showed through video clips. And the 100 Master Plan exhibition, which will be held under this theme. Well, we say 100 years, a centennial, but it's not exactly 100 years. Well, it's about how the economic logic that we have, or the regulations, the legal foundations that we have at this moment, how can we go beyond that and create an environment-friendly city that is most ideal for us? That can take 50 years, it may take 100 years, it may even take 200 years. But 100 years, it's symbolic. It's a long period of time. And if we are given sufficient time, and if we are given the right circumstances, what kind of city do we aspire to make? And of course, the city cannot be just ideal. So we have to look at the realistic, substantial challenges that we are faced with and substantial solutions. One of them would be the road surrounding the Han River. For example, the roads connect the south and the north of Han River. And of course, we have beautiful parks being formated surrounding the Han River, but these are disconnected from the inner city. You probably realize that if you take a stroll from the north of the Han River to the south of Han River. So if you look at type A, the Olympic Expressway and the Gangbyeongbuk-ro is disconnected. There was a proposal to connect the two expressways through this urban bridge, for example. And there are some foreign examples that we can benchmark. Of course, because of the time constraint, we'll not be able to show you this. But as you can see here on the ground level, you can see the green areas. And this area would link the Olympic Expressway with the Gangbyeongbuk-ro. And of course, there will be ventilation, and also there will be great scenic views that can be enjoyed. And if we are to create the edges of the north and the south with the green areas, then we will be able to secure a lot of green areas. This would help improve the air quality. If you have tried to walk over a bridge, and I'm sure that you probably do not have that experience. I tried to take foreign students to cross the river walking over the bridge, but the exit is very confusing, so it was not a pleasant experience. But the Han River also is very large in terms of its scale. Its width is about 2 kilometers. It's a very wide river. And we have to find a way to not obstruct the flow of the water while we create this green area covered bridge. So this width have to cover as much as 2 kilometers. It has to be a wide bridge, but this is not a bridge for automobiles, but it's for the ecosystem, so animals will be able to cross this bridge. And so everything would be ecologically connected, and also amenities for the citizens will be provided. For example, you would be able to rent bicycles. There would be the toilets, public toilets provided, and there will be these open green public spaces, and the vehicles will be going underneath this bridge. This was another proposal that had been presented to make a green bridge. And for the student competition, we only received the proposals for this bridge because Seoul is a very complicated, very busy city, and we wanted the students to find a solution, especially focusing on this concept of this bridge. And from 40 universities, students have participated in that particular competition. This is type 3, the third type. As you know, we have beautiful mountains in Seoul. There is Bukhan Mountain, Cheonggae, Dobong Mountain. They're very beautiful. But as soon as you climb down from the mountains, you can see that all of a sudden, abruptly, the mountainside is disconnected, and we see all of these tall, high-rising buildings. So how are we going to connect the mountainsides? And we call this a multiple-layered green hill city. How are we going to connect the green hills with the many different infrastructures, for example, the parking spaces and etc., the infrastructure that you would find in the city? So that was a multi-layered green city. Then what are we going to do with the groundscapes, the landscaping? So in principle, the overall form of the mountain and the river would be the guideline for this. And type E is, well, it tackles the inner city challenges within the city. You can see that there are many different buildings, and there are areas that are not connected because of these different buildings that have been built. So how are we going to build a network to once again reconnect the disconnected areas? Once again, we focus on the multi-layered structures. For example, the roads can be underground, and then there can be commercial areas also on the underground levels, and on top there can be the green spaces provided to the public, and then there can be the buildings. But as you can see, these are all ecologically connected, as the buildings will be standing in between the green public spaces. So as you can see here, what I explained to you, we have the different types here. The bridge that connects the Olympic Expressway and the Gangbyeongbuk-no, and also the bridges. The students have proposed the bridges for 3 different areas, and also throughout the master plan, there will be ideas implemented for the public spaces to be expanded and to have more public parks included in Seoul City. And also this green axis, well, from Gwanghamun to Yongsan Park, it will all be extended to Noodle Island. Already some areas are connected, so it's not that challenging, but there are some disconnected areas, so we want to find ways to connect them. And then, like I said, the Guryong and the Dobong high hills, how are we going to connect the hills to the city and create green routes so that throughout the city there is interconnection. We want to have a green network that connects the different areas of the city. So the competition is for the citizens to take part, and there was an open call for proposals. There were international participants who also took part in the competition, and many creative ideas were submitted as we continue to build our master plan and prepare for the thematic exhibition. We want the citizens' engagement, and we have actually given notice to some of the teams that we want to work with. And also some of the teams will have their work be on display in the exhibitions. So let me introduce our curators one by one. First of all, the president of the Korean Architecture Association, Mr. Chun Young. He's also a professor at Gyeonggi University, and he will be joining us for the thematic exhibition. So he is here with us. Please come up on stage. And Ms. Im Jin-young and Professor Yeom Sang-hoon, the two of them, well, Ms. Im Ji-young is the CEO of Open House Seoul. She is in charge of the Guest City exhibition, which introduces the foreign examples, the case studies. We have invited cities outside of Korea, and also we have invited the mayor. So there is a guest city exhibition, and this is led by Ms. Im Jin-young and Professor Yeom Sang-hoon. And also on-site is very important for next year's Biennale. So we have the on-site projects, and we have invited curator Kim Sara from Diagonal Search, which is an interdisciplinary architectural studio who has immense experience in terms of on-site projects. And also we have one more curator from overseas. He has a lot of experience in Asia and also studied in Japan. It's Professor Leif Hodfeld Hansen. And there will be 40 universities participating in a studio event, and so he will be leading the project for building the bridges that crosses the Han River. So he is another curator that will take part. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you so much, Mr. Cho Byung-soo. So my name is Chun Eui-young, and I am in charge of the thematic exhibition. Already the theme, Urban Land, Urban Architecture, has already been introduced. We want to make Seoul greener, and we want the original scene of Seoul. In other words, go back to when Seoul was really amidst the natural environment, Pugang Mountain, Inang Mountain, Naksan, and also Namsan. We have the fortress wall surrounding these walls. When Seoul was designated as a capital back in 1392, these fortress walls were built. But then the Seoul area was further expanded to the south. And we want to go back and think about the past of Seoul, but also connect the present with the future. So we want to create a ring surrounding Seoul, and so the topic is Seoul Green Ring. The green landmarks within Seoul City should be connected, and in the process of connecting these, as it was just mentioned, there are many different projects for the Han River, and these will be connected together as well. And so for the master plan for the next 100 years, Seoul Tukseom and Yongsan and Gwanak Mountain will be connected together. And also from the west, Nanji-do will be connected to the southern line. And we want to make these areas more green. And we want the water flows to be all connected together through these green areas. Pancheon, Jungnangcheon, Anyangcheon, these are all of the streams that flow within Seoul. We want them to be connected through these green areas so that the northern part of Seoul is also connected with the southern part of Seoul, south of the Han River and the north of the Han River, all connected together is what we aspire. So we call this ring urbanism. And ring urbanism is about creating a ring of 3 to 4 kilometers. But when Seoul becomes greener, we do believe that we can further expand this and be able to engage in circle packing. And so 15 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hour, there will be different networks of these different lengths. And these networks will form the future of Seoul. We thought deeply about how we will be able to accomplish this with the curators. We also thought about the concept of the ground floor, which is widely introduced in the European region. So we wanted to utilize the concept of multi-layers, and also we wanted to implement the different concepts related. For example, the building to land ratio, and also the public floor area ratio. And we wanted to provide further incentives to the citizens so that they can enjoy more floor area, for example, as part of the public areas. For example, the roads connected to the Gyeongbu Expressway, and also these roads and the infrastructures can also be part of the ring. And all of the mountains, including the Cheonggae Mountain and all of the different mountains being connected together through this ring, and the networks that are formed is what we aspire to have in Seoul. So, also we're thinking about new mobility modes, for example, the UAM, and we had those new innovative mobility modes in mind as well. So, as we incorporate the innovative aspects as well, the scenery of Han River will be quite different in the future when compared with what we see at present. The Biennale just provides a vision for the future. But I think that in order to more specifically implement what we envision, we will have to take concrete measures. We will have to have the legislative foundations as well. And also we need the city, urban, architectural experts taking part as well. We have with us Mr. Yu Chang-soo, who is head of housing policy of Seoul City. And also we have President Kim, who of the Korean Architectural Association. So all of these expert organizations and relevant agencies will work together so that we can restore the natural environment of Seoul, but at the same time implement the future aspects of the city together. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you very much. I am the co-curator for the Guest City exhibition, Im Jin-young. I'm also in charge of the Guest City exhibition. My name is Yeom Sang-hoon. The Guest City exhibition, as you well know, tackles the challenges that are commonly faced by the different cities around the world, and the different cities will share their experiences and the solutions that they have implemented to tackle the challenges. And the theme for next year's Guest City exhibition is Parallel Grounds. This theme, can we go back? Yes, thank you. So this theme focuses on the fact that all of the city activities start at the ground level, ground one. And the ground level actually is the street level, where the citizens engage in various activities, where the vitality of the city begins. So this is actually the basic foundation of all of the dynamism of the city. But as you know, with the multi-layers being implemented in the city, sometimes the ground levels have become disconnected. And so we're in a very complex environment, and it's very difficult to really find and promote the public values. So in the Guest City exhibition, we want to look into how the ground levels really serve the people, and how are we going to take note of the density of the city, but also promote the public value of the city. So the role of the ground level is very important for the urban space, and we have to think about accessibility, we have to think about the public value so that public life can be further promoted. The experience of the pedestrians have to be improved, and for that we have to improve the ground level, the street level conditions. So we thought about how we can make the ground level more multi-layered. Then, is density impossible to go hand in hand with public value? On this topic, I think we have to look at a number of key words. Capital is invested for economic development, and This focuses on the maximum floor area ratio when it comes to construction. It's the same for Seoul as well. And in many cities around the world, New York, Tokyo, Hong Kong, Colombia's Medellin, and Brazil or Madrid, we saw many different cases. And we could see that these cities have been focusing on striking a balance between public value and the maximization of capital value. So, the multi-layered cities are what we see around the world, and many efforts have been made to make these cities once again connected. But some failed. There was limited accessibility found in some cities, and the reason for that was that just physical connection of the multi-layers does not work. When we try to promote connection within the cities, we have to think about the skyscrapers, but also the different elements within the cities. So at the same time, the artificial structures are sometimes disconnected with the nature or the natural environment. Sometimes architecture are built based on the logic of mankind. But we have to think more about the logic that exists within the natural environment. So we have to think about the principles that exist within nature. And when we do so, I think that we can take one step further in terms of realizing sustainability. So our exhibition focuses on the significance of the ground level once again. And also we think about, in order to create a city that is more sustainable, how can we further promote this concept of the ground level? As you know, the city's density is going up, and the ground level relevance with people's daily lives have been weakened over the years. So in order to overcome that challenge, different cities have tried different attempts. For example, adding more ground levels, or also expanding the floor area ratio, but at the same time securing greater density, or applying different rules to have a 3D approach implemented. There were many different strategies that have been implemented by different cities, and we will be sharing such different strategies through the exhibition. Now, these challenges are challenges that existed from very long ago. For example, in the turn of the century, if you look at the city environment, you can see that the skyscrapers were already built, and there were attempts to build these multi-layers. And these days in Asia and also in Latin America, we can see that many different strategies to have multi-layer ground levels have been implemented. How were we going to utilize the existing land? There were a lot of thought given to the utilization of land, and also how to connect the different levels of land. And also there were attempts to actually develop new land to build new ground levels. Not only that, well, there's social media and metaverse that leads to the creation of new public areas. For example, the public areas are extended into the virtual space in these cases. So that's also covered in the exhibition. We're not sharing the existing examples and what exists right now in the different cities, but actually we want to also showcase the processes of how the cities came to existence in their present form, and also what were the challenges for the cities to come to their present form, and also think about how we can create further sustainable cities. Rather than providing a solution, we want to present many different questions to the viewers, and we hope that our exhibition will serve as a platform for people to exchange views and ideas. And perhaps the people who come visit can also share their views or their ideas and solutions for the challenges. Thank you very much.
네, 안녕하세요. 현장전 프로젝트의 김.
Hello, my name is Kim Seola from On-Site Project. Before introducing to you my project, well, I would like to touch upon my past projects very shortly. This is Unfolded Space-Time, which was held in Seoul train station, and we had Namyangju and Yongin project. I had a lot of one-off project related to architecture. And as a builder myself, based on my past experiences, I was able to come to Songhyun-dong for Seoul 100 years. I was able to be part of this onset project, so indeed it was a pleasure and honor for me. And if you look at this pavilion, it is about meeting the land with the city, and I believe that it is a very opportune opportunity for me to be part of it. Here, as you can see here, this is Francis Ace's project, and 500 volunteers moved a sand dune. And as you're well aware, this Songhyun-dong site is open to the public after 100 years, and now maybe our steps toward this is rather small. I believe that it is a very meaningful starting point for us to move together for the future. What came to mind as I saw this site was this: nowhere, nowhere, and now here. So this was the theme of my project, and the title of the exhibition was Experiential Node. And we had Global City exhibition and some other exhibitions, and there on the site exhibition we were able to meet with a lot of visitors in a human scale. And as you can see here, I have 3 areas of keywords. And Songhyun-dong, in the urbanism context, it was rather rolled out from the city's discourse, and that is why we looked at the keyword gathering ground. And also there is a transformation taking place, obviously, for the site. And last but not least, there are a lot of different fabrics into this city area, and I believe that Songhyun-dong can serve as the node for this area. And next, what I was thinking about was, as a pavilion, there are a lot of different ways coming into existence, and Biennale is taking place in Songhyun-dong, so I wanted to put into some seasonality factors like weathering architecture and time architecture, and not just this, but also, well, the general public can feel what architecture means for the city through the pavilion. So that is why I looked at those keywords related to materiality and phenomena. And the third keyword I looked into was, of course, other directors also mentioned this, there's waterways and mountain ranges in Seoul area, and there is this scenic enjoyment and experience that the Seoulite can experience in this site. And these 3 keywords were used for experiential node that I wanted to create. And here, as you can see, during the Joseon Dynasty, it was the pine forest that protected Gyeongbokgung Palace, and then after that, the population became dense, and now, as you can see here, the road has been built with the natural waters, and a lot of apartment complex were built into this area. So over the past 100 years, this pine forest has transformed itself into an area with multiple usage. And going forward, we may change our plan a bit, but if you look at this master plan, there are those main venue areas, which is Earth Project and Sky Project, and we have 4 different pavilions in this area. And how are these pavilions linking all those fabrics of the city? And that was the question we start with. And we have a lot of given a thought to the location of the pavilions. And also, of course, we may have some adjustments and modification along the way, but as you can see, we have some special pavilions and event pavilions. So there, we would like to utilize those places for like festival events and gathering place for the general public. This is a basic master plan for us based on Earth Project and Sky Project. If you look at this orange area, that is the pavilion, those 4 pavilions we're talking about. And then from their residential areas, they can access event pavilion or special pavilion for a lot of different activities taking place. Lastly, well, of course, the architects are not all designated, but I would like to give you some introduction of them. So here, as you can see, we have architectural structure and also experiential pavilion will be taken into consideration. So especially in this architectural space, we have experiential pavilion, movable furniture pavilion, and invisible pavilion. And there, we would like to have a lot of talks with different unique architects. And as citizen-linked programs, we would like to have a field drawing workshop and experiential field performance with a lot of artists and architecture in presence. So as a curator myself, in charge of on-site program, now I am very thrilled to open this land site to the general public, and indeed this is a great honor for me. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Leif Høfeldt Hansen. I'm an associate professor at the Aarhus School of Architecture in Denmark. I'm also the Global Studios curator of the 4th Seoul Biennale for Architecture and Urbanism, which will take place in 2023. Global Studios is a part of the Biennale, and it is bridging among 40 architectural universities worldwide for a mutual discussion of the future of megacities. In a world with conflicts daily presented in the media, it is crucial that architectural issues can be a positive meeting point for enthusiastic young students to formulate new ideas for future sustainable global development. This time, the Global Studios exhibition title is Bridging the Megacity. Its focus is concentrated on the part of a Biennale master plan for a future sustainable Seoul that links north and south with 3 green bridges crossing the Hangang River. The design of the bridges will be architectural visions of green public areas connecting the southern to the northern parts of the city. The bridges will primarily be programmed with public functions which can contain future mini-city and park environments with soft traffic. Bridges have historically played a significant role in beautiful cities' identity, everyday life, and remarkable localities. The beautiful designs of the Rialto Bridge in Venice and the Ponte Vecchio in Florence, Italy, are identical to the city's history. Tower Bridge in London, England, and 5 Pavilion Bridge in Yangzhou, China, stands as living architectural monuments for significant localities. The typical of these bridges is that they are an extension of the existing building mass in the city into nature. Today, the vast building masses and endless lines of infrastructure in megacities call for another type of humanized bridge where nature and biodiversity play a central part. You could call that a return of nature to the city. Along with designing bridges as a part of the master plan, Global Studios puts up a forum among universities worldwide to exchange ideas about the general future development of megacities. The forum will be global pre-biennale online meetings with all participants. And later, there will be online roundtable discussions at the official opening. Questions for discussions among students about the vision of a future megacity will be: how should the relationship in the future be between the built environment and nature? How should the formation of public spaces like parks, leisure, culture, and commerce be? How do you imagine traffic and transportation to be? Will it be private or public or both? How should a local community for domestic living be designed? How should the organization be between workspace and living space? How do you see environmental sustainability integrated? Do you, for instance, consider there is a chance to use and connect to water, sun, and wind? I look forward to seeing you all at the Seoul Biennale in September 2023 to explore inventive and positive ideas about the future from enthusiastic young students at architectural studios at universities worldwide. Thank you.
네, 전체적으로
So, we have just heard from the curators. We heard the overall specifics of each exhibition that they are in charge of. And the ideas of the exhibitions were presented. In realizing the ideas, what can be really implemented, and what do you intend to focus on more? And also, in the long-term perspective, how significant do you think that these efforts are? And also, if there was something that you were not able to cover in your remarks, perhaps you can add on. So we will have the curators take turns and speak a little bit more. Let's invite Professor Chun Ui-young first. So the significance and also the implementation plans and also the themes, how they're connected together? Yes. So I think I delivered all of the core parts of the exhibition. But connecting the land architecture and the city requires some important touch points. And that is something that we are all contemplating over. In particular, linking the transportation modes together is something that we really have to think about. So the center of transportation, where the major stations are, for example, the express trains being introduced in the highway sections could be one way, or the Yongsan station or the Seoul station, and also some sections of the Gyeongbu Expressway. Now, these are where Seoul will have to focus more on in terms of logistics and transportation, especially in between Gangnam Station and Seocho Station. Well, Gyeongbu Expressway runs through that area, and if Gyeongbu Expressway goes underground in that area, that would really benefit the people. For example, also, in terms of logistics, I think that we can benefit greatly. And we can utilize new modes of logistics, for example, robots and technology. And also in Gangbyeong-pukno and the Olympic Expressway, if these two are connected together, then we will be able to enjoy more green space surrounding the Han River, and the north of the Han River will be connected with the south of the Han River, and the land surrounding this area will be expanded greatly, and the citizens will benefit greatly from such expansion of green areas. These are also areas where we have experienced floods recently because of the heavy rainfall, and that's something that we also have to think about. I had this talk with Mr. Yu Chang-soo, who is head of housing policy, and he suggested very good ideas to us. But there is the Taebaek mountain side that runs through the southern part of Korea, and that leads to the Paltang Dam, and that's the area where there's a lot of heavy rainfall that we experience. And so perhaps we can have the water of the south of the Han River flow towards Pyeongtaek, and we can make Seoul a more environment-friendly waterfront city and build the right infrastructure for us to control the water flows and at the same time enjoy the natural environment and save us from the natural disasters and secure more pedestrian roads. So once again, Seoul being connected with many green areas and roads for the pedestrians is something that we are foreseeing. Yes, well, if you look at overseas cities such as Boston, we can see that there are many underground roads and the ground level are now being transformed into public parks. But of course, in Korea, we have the expressways. We have the Olympic Expressway, we have the Gangbyeok-Bukno. And in Korea, we have the heavy rain season, the Changma, the monsoon season. And so, rather than taking the roads underground, it is better to create a second ground with the green areas being built on top of the existing roads. That is actually a better approach for Korea, which experienced such heavy rainfall. In terms of the expenses or in terms of the level of difficulty of building these infrastructure, that might be an easier way for us to go forward with this idea and approach. So in terms of the guest city exhibition, perhaps you can share with us more details. I think that you've already covered the basics, so maybe you can go into more details about the exhibition, how the exhibition is connected with Seoul City, more specifically. Thank you. Yes, well, I think that the most important starting point was the concept of the ground floor. We talk about the pedestrian environment, and of course, at the street level, the pedestrians experience so many things. And the pedestrian level, street level environment, we have always thought that that environment is composed of a single layer. But with the density of the city going up, and the city's becoming more complex, we're not just seeing more buildings being constructed, but also we're seeing the concept of the ground floor changing. And so multi-layers are being introduced to the concept of ground level in terms of the openness or the accessibility of such an approach. We do believe that multi-layers will make the cities more vibrant, because there's greater accessibility to the citizens at the ground level. And if you look at the different cultures, the different countries, the word ground, the ground level, the street level are defined differently. And depending on the era of the times that we live in, the definition of the ground level is also different. So we had to take a look at the history of the concept of ground level, and also we had to take a look at the different ideas surrounding this concept of ground level. So in terms of the concept of ground, well, there has been research done starting with the 1960s, even here in Korea. But in fact, the multi-layer approach, well, there has been some attempts to implement this approach, but it was mainly about the multi-layers for the buildings or the automobiles, I think. But the research that we're doing right now is focusing on how we can have the ground level be enjoyed more by the citizens and make the ground level more ecologically viable. So vehicles, automobiles, or the functions are actually something that will go underground, perhaps. And we want the ground level to be more utilized by the pedestrians and the citizens. I think that's what you have tried to explain. Now, Professor Yum, do you have anything else to add?
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Lim, for a great explanation. If I give you an example, well, one of the most important things is the segregation of capital, meaning we need to abide by the role of capitalism, and in doing so, we would like to make some new attempts. And so we looked at New York and the importance of historical preservation. We witnessed that. And of course, in other cities, they also make a lot of efforts But then in New York, it was more apparent to have a floor area rate and so on. And of course, we always have some limitations to grounds and areas, and Columbia Mediterranean examples is case in point. And also, well, if you look at those new high-rise apartment buildings and the natural area, how can they be linked to one another? And also, there are those automobile roads and other streets, and we were able to see Mazel and Madrid cases in point. And so we wanted to really share all those with us in our project, and what is the best way to incorporate and converge all different conditions. Also, we need to look at the historical and cultural background as well as regulatory background as well. Right. Regarding the value of capital, this may be a little controversial issue to discuss. And listening to what you experts have to say is that capital is not just capital. Under the theory of capital, we can make something valuable to the general public, and that can provide benefit to the general public as well. So in order to abide by the role of capitalism, when we have over the top green areas on top of the roads or ground level, I believe that it is something that we need to explore further, and I believe that we can tackle this issue more wisely. So when looking at these kind of issues, I believe that it is more important to take practical approaches than ideological approaches. I believe that it is something like a feasible project that we would like to implement together to improve effectiveness and efficiency of the project. So we were able to study a lot of different cities around the world. I believe that we will have more time to talk about this together going forward. And on the side project, I know our CEO Kim gave us a little bit of details, but well, you also said you would like to implement those engagement projects along with other citizens and other artists and architects in those events, right? Even if and even though not all of them have been figured out, is there any exciting project or event coming to existence? Anything exciting planned for you? What kind of architect or artist are going to join us? Well, like roughly, the list of the architects and artists is confirmed, but however, we didn't get the final confirmation from the Seoul Metropolitan Government. But anyways, world-renowned architects paid a visit to our Seonghyun Green Plaza, and they were so surprised nicely. And this is a beautiful area that is so much surrounded by the mountain. How can it be conserved and protected this way for more than 100 years? Everyone was taken aback at the scene of the site. And for realistic project, over the past 20 years, we have tried to play a great role providing public good to the general public. But if you look at this pavilion project, I believe that it shouldn't be just a one-off project. We need to think about what is going to be the next step that we need to take. I believe that this is more or less a starting point to figure that out. Right, it's indeed a very big landmass, more than 10,000 square meters, and so it is an open-end concept. We have huge structures coming to build, and that means I believe that a lot of investment will be made, and there will be so many spectators from across Seoul and across the world. Our idea is to use recyclable materials 100%, and well, if you look at this pavilion, if we can't invest or fund the budget of pavilion 100% from our Biennale budget, then we would like to try to mobilize funding from elsewhere and build the pavilion 100%. And we would like to recycle all of those materials used in pavilion later on. And so that is our plan. Well, I believe that the end is in sight for our talk. If you have any questions from the floor, we would like to get your questions. Well, we are a bit behind the schedule. We were a bit, excited to talk a lot about this. So, it went a little behind the schedule. So, with this, I would like to wrap up this session here.
서울 도시
We heard about the Seoul 100-year master plan and also the various programs of next year's Seoul Biennale of Architecture and Urbanism. Many people are really contemplating over the issue of making the future of Seoul more sustainable and environment-friendly, as we could see during the talk. And the 2023 SBAU will present the various visions for the city in which we live. So we have great expectations for the Biennale. I would like to thank the General Director, the Operation Director, and all of the curators. Once again, a big hand. Thank you. So this concludes the first part of the Pre-Biennale, and in part 2, we will be carrying out the event under the theme of Seoul citizens and the future 100 years of Seoul. So we will have a Q&A about the SBAU. We will meet you in a short while. We ask you to stay until the very end. Thank you so much.